News stories. The first news story, TJ Hawkinson has been traded to the Minnesota Vikings in exchange for some picks. This is big for the Vikings offense as it allows for them to add another weapon. They're 6-1, looking to build off that. So I like this move for the Vikings. The next scenario, we're going to talk about a few running backs. We're on the move. Jeff Wilson Jr., currently a new running back for the Miami Dolphins to use. Reunite him with Raheem Mostert and Mike McDaniel. I'm excited to see what they can bring in Miami. Naeem Hines pictured there, trade to the Bills. We'll see what this means for James Cook, how they'll involve Naeem Hines. He's definitely a really good pass-catching back. Second pass-catching rating over just behind Christian McCaffrey out of all running backs in the past few years. Definitely an area they wanted. And Chase Edmonds has been traded to the Denver Broncos in a deal for Bradley Chubb. So the Broncos now get a pass-catching back. What does this mean for Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray? I think it hurts Melvin Gordon more than it does Latavius Murray. And then we have some wide receivers on the move as well. Chase Claypool has been traded to the Bears for a second-round pick. Obviously, the Bears want to get him involved. They gave up a decent amount for Chase Claypool. He's still young, so I'm excited to see how they involve him into the offense. Hopefully, him and Darnell Mooney can get really involved. And Calvin Ridley was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a surprise move no one really saw coming. The wide receiver has been suspended for all of this year. The Jags got a deal done before, and now he's going to be able to pair with Christian Kirk for Trevor Lawrence in next year. How do you guys think your team did at the trade deadline? Let us know using the media app. The media app is a virtual press conferencing app that allows you to host a virtual press conference from your phone. You can post it to any social media platform. Tag us in it, and we'll respond. We'll let you know our thoughts on your take. Make sure you go check out the apps on the Google Play and the App Store. And now let's welcome in our guests, Will and Jeff. Welcome in.
Hey.
What's happening?
Not too much. Will's team made a nice trade there. Will, what are your thoughts on TJ Hawkinson trade?
We'll see. I think it's hard for any guy, even at this level of football. I think it's hard to come in and hit the ground running. I wish they could have made the trade during the bye week if they were going to make it. I'm happy with the trade. I think it's a great pickup. I think he solves their tight end issues next year too, and they'll probably lock him up long term because why would you not? Unless he gets hurt, why wouldn't you lock him up long term? It also means Irv Smith stays. Remember, he's on IR, 8 to 10 weeks. So, and he's this last year of his rookie contract. But it'll be interesting. It gives, Kirk is a safety net quarterback, and I think he misses Kyle Rudolph. Even though I don't think Kyle Rudolph was the greatest tight end, but I think he misses, especially in the red zone, the presence of someone like Rudolph who could bail him out with a high throw and use that arm span and those hands. So but it gives another weapon, and he can block. Let's remember, he can block, and I think that gets a little bit more interesting in a 3 wide receiver set with just Dalvin or Madison in the backfield. You have a good lineman, a good tight end that can run block when you need him to too.
Yeah, I think you make good points. We'll see how involved he gets in this offense. There's definitely a lot of mouths to feed. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we're going to do a mid-seasons award show here. We have 6 awards: MVP, Bust, the Draft Day Value, Rookie of the Year so far, a breakout player, and a most disappointing quarterback, since we all love to talk about the quarterback position so much so far this season. We're going to start off MVP. Each of us, including Zach from Ocean State, who's currently not with us, nominated 1 player for each award. I posted them up on my story at Pro Football Craze. Had you guys vote. So we're going to go through each award. I'm going to tell you the percentages of who voted for who. We're going to briefly discuss, and then we'll move on. So start with the MVP. I nominated Austin Eckler, 32% of the votes, and that gets Austin Eckler the win, currently averaging the most points per game at the running back position. Second place in the MVP voting, Josh Allen, nominated by Will, 27%. So this was a close
Josh,
one.
You were robbed.
Definitely
robbed,
close.
Josh.
Zach voted for Nick Chubb, 24% of the vote. And Jeff's nomination coming in last place, Jalen Hurts, 17%. I named it Austin Eckler because over the past 4 weeks especially, He's been killing it. 30, 30, 20, 30-point games. Nothing better than that. He started off a little rough, but he's really come on strong and has helped my teams that maybe were 0-2. He's turned them around. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. Austin Eckler's won them multiple weeks. And at the running back position, we've seen so many injuries, so many other things go wrong. Austin Eckler's been there for your team. That's why I voted for him. Josh Allen's been the best quarterback. Nick Chubb's been great. Jalen Hurts finally learned how to throw the football, throw for some touchdowns this past week. But I think Eckler takes the cake. Will, Jeff, what surprised you about these rankings, and why'd you make your pick?
Actually, I Austin Eckler was another guy that I was looking at, but it was just at the slow start. I don't know what Brandon Staley was thinking, first of all, handing the ball off to everybody else but Austin Eckler. And that's what kind of I actually tried to trade for him in a couple of leagues, but nobody was budging. But I took this more of most teams that you're looking at as far as my own pick. Most teams that you're seeing in first place, they have Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. And I think he now is really changing people's minds as far as his ability to throw now that he actually has another top receiver with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And he's actually utilizing Dallas Goedert as well. So I'm thinking that he's going to continue to keep going up. So by the end of the season, I think some people will go ahead and maybe change their pick to looking at Jalen Hurts as being the MVP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hurts was nominated for 3 awards, and he won 0. Mm-hmm. What did you say, Will?
I was going to say, like, I nominated him for another fantasy category, Jalen. Mm-hmm. But look, the reason I think Josh deserved it is his hands are on the ball every play. And so not only is his stats worthy of it just by himself, the difference between him and Jalen is Jalen just now started throwing the ball. Josh raises the level of all the players around him. And to me, that's, especially in fantasy, I need a guy that gets points for me on multiple layers. So even if I don't have Josh Allen, but I have Diggs, I'm still feeding. Right? Mm-hmm. And Eckler doesn't do that. Jalen, one game has done that. One game. Well, who else? What throwing touchdowns does he have? If you take away the 3 last week, what did he have going into the week?
He's had a few before with A.J. Brown. And
nowhere near the level of Josh Allen.
Right. And nowhere, if A.J. Brown was on the Bills.
A.J. Brown is Stephon Diggs.
Oh, my God. They'd both be feeding. Everybody be feeding. Yeah. So I'm just saying, no offense to Jalen, but Jalen's not the MVP in fantasy football at the halfway mark. It should have gone to Josh Allen. I don't know what people were thinking. I think
Austin Eckler. Sat there. They love the running back position.
No, Austin sat there and just clicked it a million times.
I mean, I tagged him in it. He hasn't seen it yet, but maybe he will. All right, let's move on to our bust picks here. Will won this one. Jonathan Taylor. He's probably who I would have nominated if I hadn't seen Will's already. 46% of the vote. Zach nominated another guy I was thinking about, Najee Harris, 34% of the vote. Jeff went with Devontae Adams, who had 12% of the vote. And I went with a guy who, for me, was the biggest bust of the year, a guy who people thought was going to be the RB1 on his team, and he's done nothing. He struggled with injuries in the games he played. He sucks, and that's James Conner. And he only got 8% of the vote. I guess he wasn't quite as big a name as the other guys that were up here. But Taylor won. Taylor's definitely a big bust. He's dealt with injuries this year. People who use the whole excuse, no, he's never been hurt before. He's not going to get hurt. You can't predict the injuries of the running back position. You can't do it. People use that excuse to not draft Christian McCaffrey, and they went with Jonathan Taylor over him, and they're regretting it now. That's my main thing, Jonathan Taylor. His whole thing was, he's going to stay healthy all year. Didn't happen. Najee Harris, another great pick. He's kind of been underwhelming. The Steelers' offense hasn't really been what we thought it was going to be. He hasn't been able to get much done by way of efficiency. Adams has had a couple up weeks, a couple down weeks. He's still the wide receiver 9, so disappointing, maybe a little bit, but I don't consider him a bust. And then James Conner's just sucked. But Will, you chose the winner of this category. Let us know why you picked Jonathan Taylor.
And I feel bad because I don't think it's Jonathan's fault. Honestly, I mean, but it's who's the bust, and he was the number one pick in a lot of leagues, and everybody thought it was if you had the number one pick, you're like, this is the safest pick because I don't get to pick again until the draft comes back to me, so I'm going to lock up Jonathan Taylor. And I think it's more of a disappointment with Matt Ryan, the coaching staff, just the whole Colts organization, to be completely honest with you. I do say I was torn between Jonathan and Cam Akers because even though Cam Akers wasn't drafted high, a lot of people used him as their fallback running back. Like, okay, I got him in the third round. He's going to be RB1, and he's going to carry the Rams offense because they don't have OBJ. And for him to just fucking walk away, just walk away.
Yeah,
I get it. You're frustrated. You got to be kidding me. You play for the Los Angeles Rams. The marketing deals alone you're losing are killing you, dude. Like, so I was torn. I wanted to put Cam, but then I thought, well, if we're saying who's the biggest buzz for fantasy, when it's overwhelming number one pick for a lot of teams, and that killed teams. Teams are dying because of this. It just is what it is.
Yeah, people have had to sell low on Jonathan Taylor because they need to get some wins because he hasn't helped them win any games yet.
And not going to.
No. And Jeff, your pick, Devontae Adams. Let's talk a little bit about him before we move on to the next one.
That just really came up after the last game. That was just it's just been going down, down, down. He's had some up weeks at the he's actually saved a couple of other games by just having one touchdown. If he didn't score that touchdown, it would have been a very, very down game. And after you saw the first game where he's, had a lot of targets, and again, now you're just seeing the Raiders' offense fall apart. I mean, no score against the Saints.
The Saints.
So, they've kind of figured him out. I mean, look at Dennis Allen. He was like, all I'm going to do is take away Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, and look what happens. You don't score. So I think other teams are going to follow suit as well. And he was still one of the top receivers off the board. A lot of times, a lot of drafts I was watching, people were going that zero running back strategy. And he was either, 1A or 1B is either like him and Justin Jefferson going off the board early. And for him to put up what he's putting up is just, and it's not his fault, unfortunately. It's, again,
Can we say it is a little bit his fault?
I would say for choosing to go to the Raiders,
right?
Yeah.
But it's not his play.
Right.
No,
They're they know he's the only thing that they have other than Josh Jacobs. That's why you're seeing Matt Collins get 7 to 10 targets a game. So, especially with Waller being out, there's no other receiver that they need to worry about.
Yeah, that's true. Let's move on. We talked about Josh Jacobs. He was in nomination in the next category. He missed out by about 5 votes to win this category.
Wow.
I just checked now. It's the same differential as it was when I made this earlier today. For our value pick, draft day value, a guy who you drafted, maybe you draft him a little lower because, people had some questions about these guys. Tyreek Hill, my nomination, came in first place with 39% of the votes. Josh Jacobs, Will's nomination, 38% of the votes, followed by Zach's nomination and Jalen Hurts, 21% of the votes. Here's Jalen Hurts coming in third. And Jeff's nomination of Aaron Jones with the lowest percentage of any of these, 3% of the votes. I'm going to start it off. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 2 currently, been on fire. He's been open. They've been targeting him. Tua's look great with him. Just the combination of him, he currently leads the NFL in yards, on pace to set records. You were able to get him as like the wide receiver in between wide receivers 7 to 12 range in drafts. He was falling. People were concerned about this offense, and he's definitely proven that, he's going to be able to make do with this offense. He was definitely a draft day value if you got him. Josh Jacobs has been great as well. Definitely a draft day value. Hurts has outperformed his productions, and so has Aaron Jones. Will, you came second. Why'd you pick Josh Jacobs?
Because I think he was more devalued on draft day than Tyreek Hill.
Josh Jacobs was the RB 20 range, whereas Tyreek Hill was low end wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and I'm going to loop back real quick just to the previous thing. It's amazing how we still value, a lot of people still value Devontae Adams with Derek Carr, but did not value Tyreek Hill with Tua.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I put up
that's
in this
interesting.
poll, I put up where their average draft position was just so people could get an idea. So Tyreek Hill on average was the wide receiver 7 drafted. Josh Jacobs at RB 22. And with that number still there, Tyreek Hill still won.
Oh, it's all those Miami homers voting.
Yeah, all Zach's buddies that follow me just spam the Tyreek Hill button.
Click, right. But he did. I think Tyreek deserves it.
Yeah.
Because what outside of Justin Jefferson, and I'm trying to think like who I would have took over him, knowing what I know now. I might have took Tyreek Hill number 1 wide receiver, to be honest with you.
I mean, Diggs would be 1.
Diggs, Jefferson, and Hill would be my top 3 wide receivers right now.
Yeah, I think they probably are 1, 2, 3 in the rankings. And then Waddle's not very far behind.
No,
I almost put Waddle for a draft day value because he was being in the 20s and he's the the wide receiver 5. Jeff, you picked Aaron Jones. The people didn't give your pick love. Let them know why they're wrong.
I think because people still looked at him as a receiver, as a wide running back, still going in the first round. Mm-hmm. But in some drafts, he was slipping to the second round, and there were people that were actually picking A.J. Dillon over him. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was looking at. People thought the changing of the guard was coming, and that Aaron Jones was not going to be the lead back in Green Bay. So there were some drafts he was going in the second round, and there was another person. Will actually took the guy that I was putting up there, Josh Jacobs. But you can even say the same thing about Nick Chubb, man. He had slipped far down as well. And I think a lot of these running backs, man, were there was a lot of zero running back strategy this year, man. There were a lot of people taking wide receivers over running backs. So that's why I went with Aaron Jones. Just looking at what that whole offense has become, Aaron Jones is the lifeline and the lifeboat raft for that offense.
But hey, that zero running back strategy, that was all Cooper. That was all reaction to Cooper Kupp last year.
Yep.
And what people thought offenses were going to be. Because like you said, McCaffrey, even if he doesn't get traded, and I get the injury
RB5
stuff,
before the
trade.
It
is what it is.
Christian McCaffrey should have been your number 1 overall pick.
Next year's draft, top 5 picks are going to be running back.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. Our rookie of the first half of the season. I think the people got this one wrong. Recency bias came out with this one. Will's pick of Kenneth Walker won with 36% of the vote. Kenneth Walker's only been good for 4 games, guys. Get this pick out of here. Not deserving of the first half of the year. Rookie of the year.
I can't put an injured guy as the rookie of the year.
Nope. No, the injured guy is the only correct pick here. Breece Hall.
No.
He beat out Jeff's pick by 1 vote. By 1 vote, outdoing Jeff's pick of Dameon Pierce. But Breece Hall, to me, should have been the easy pick. He currently has more points than both of those 2 running backs. He hasn't played the last 2 games. He has more points. Currently still sitting as the RB10. Breece Hall went off for you first half of the year. This is a first half of the year award. First half of the year. I'm taking the RB10, who's missed multiple games already, and he put up numbers when he played. If you had him, you were super excited. I don't want any of this Kenneth Walker recency bias stuff. And Dameon Pierce has been playing in every game, still yet to surpass where Breece Hall is. So I can see the argument for Dameon Pierce over Kenneth Walker for sure. I like that, but Breece Hall's got to be the pick here.
Nah, fans got it right.
No,
fans got it right.
I'm a Seahawks fan.
Yeah,
and I didn't even pick Kenneth Walker only because the first half of the season, he's only been. But hey, from going on now on, he could very well be. I love him to death.
Well, what was the ADP of Walker and Breece Hall?
Walker was lower than Breece Hall, but Walker was still like a 7th round pick.
Okay. What was Breece Hall was not a 7th round pick.
No.
He's around 3rd.
There you go.
But it's his rookie. Who's been the best? It's not who This isn't the value
Part of
category
being
here.
part of being
We
the best,
did the value category.
Part of being the best is being able to play every Sunday. I'm sorry.
Kenneth
It's-
Walker
So
didn't
that
play every
means-
Sunday. He missed the first half of the year.
Right.
So that means my pick should be number one.
No.
He has been
Yes,
Because
using
consistent.
Will's logic.
There's one caveat. Just I mean actually play. I like your pick, Jeff, but he's not the talent that Walker is. And Walker shouldn't have went in the 7th round. There's no way. Like that was recency bias because everybody thought Seattle was going to be awful because Russ was gone.
Well, and also
It wasn't who's the
that
better
Rashad
back.
Penny sitting there,
Yeah,
who
but,
was the starter.
right. True.
Penny
But Walker-
plays good when he's on the field. He just got hurt.
Sorry, I'm with Kenneth.
But Pierce is
Let's
been
ride,
very,
baby.
very
Come on, Kenneth.
consistent
Let's ride.
No, it should have
on
been
a very
Breeze,
bad team.
Pierce, and Walker. Zach also had Pierce, so Jeff and Zach on the same page for that one.
And the people got it right. Kenneth Walker.
Nah, it's recency bias.
That was your
bias.
probably your vote, Will.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Jeff,
All right.
you're going to like this next one a little better. We're getting to the breakout category. You and Zach were on the same page again, but you managed to not outdo my pick here. You guys voted for Tua, 26% of the vote. Will voted for Jalen Hurts, 24% of the vote. So still Jalen Hurts coming in last. The number one breakout of the fantasy football season. This guy is currently the quarterback 7. We're
Cordell
talking about
Patterson.
Geno Smith. We're talking about Geno
yeah.
Smith.
Yeah,
50% of the vote. I knew you would like it, even though you didn't win. Geno
You're
Smith
right.
came in here.
I'll take it.
This guy's been lighting it on fire. He's been able to perform with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They both had really good years.
Yeah.
People were expecting these guys to be worthless with Geno Smith throwing them the ball. Geno Smith's been great. He's been efficient. He's supporting his wide receivers. And this was a guy you picked up on waivers, and you're able to start him week in, week out. Tua's been great as well. If he had played every single game, he probably would have got more votes. Kind of hurt him a little bit, I feel like, but he's been great. Jalen Hurts also been great, but he was kind of already good at the end of last year, so he really didn't get the love in this category. But I think the easy pick for me is Geno Smith. I love the pick, Jeff. You agree with Geno winning this award?
I'm okay with it. Yes. I'm just looking at Tua, where everybody was still kind of not believing, even with the receivers that he had. They did not think. And this guy goes out in one game. Had how many touchdowns? Didn't he throw like? Was it 4 to 6 touchdowns? There was something ridiculous.
6,
Yeah.
6 against the
6
Ravens, I
touchdowns.
think. It was a
And
lot.
then after the concussion, he still comes back last week and puts up 3. So that's why I was just like,
I wanted to put Tua with you, but I didn't put Jalen anywhere. I figured I had to put him somewhere, so it was breakout.
None of
Yeah,
my lists. None
I
of my
hear you.
lists.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you
Yes,
on that.
sir. Yes, sir. Geno wins himself a category. Been winning games for the Seahawks all year.
Congratulations,
Now he gets a
Geno.
mid-season fantasy football award. We're keeping it short and sweet this week. We got our last category coming up. This one going to cause a little more controversy. We've talked about this category of quarterbacks a lot. I didn't want to include them in the bust category because I figured, why not give them their own category? The most disappointing fantasy football quarterback so far. Will tried to, get some other names out there. He picked Derek Carr, 8% of the vote. Not great. He's been disappointing for sure. Fans just weren't loving it. They didn't care about Derek Carr. He wasn't even on their radar. Jeff's pick, Aaron Rodgers, currently quarterback 15. Lots of people have been disappointed by that offense, 15% of the vote. Zach's pick, which kind of surprised me, but the more you look at it, it kind of makes sense. Justin Herbert, currently sitting at quarterback 8. I personally like that vote, but he came second in the voting with 19%. And the only Russell Wilson comes away with the win in this category. Most disappointing fantasy quarterback over the first half of the season. 59% of the vote. The most percentages of any of these quarterbacks. Currently sitting at the quarterback 20. And you drafted him to be a top 5 quarterback this year. He hasn't lived up to his expectations. Russ has been terrible. The Broncos coaching staff has been horrendous. Not been a great year for the Broncos. Not been a great year for Russ. Russ has failed to support his weapons to make them consistent. Greg Dulcich has been the only consistent one since he's come back from injury. But outside of that, you can't start any of them with confidence week in, week out. And I mean, talk about it, there's been a lot of disappointing quarterbacks. Herbert hasn't really met up to his expectation, but he wasn't even on my radar. I was looking for guys that were drafted, and they just completely fell off. Aaron Rodgers was a good pick. He hasn't been great this year. Derek Carr, I also like. He hasn't been able to support Devontae Adams the way he should be. But Russ just comes away with this. Russ sucks. I really don't think there's anything else left to be said. We'll let you go next. We'll leave Jeff to stew for a couple more minutes here. Do you think the fans got this one right?
Oh, they got it 100% right. I was going to nominate Russ, but I figured if we all nominated Russ, who the hell would there be to vote for? So I went with Carr because how much did we have to listen to in the offseason? Oh, this is Adams and Carr. They played college football together. It's reuniting. They're back. They're back. Oh, they're back. All right. They're back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derek Carr's been bad. I drafted him in a league, and I have since dropped him for Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford's another guy who hasn't been great, but over the past couple of weeks, he's been serviceable. He's been much better than Derek Carr. And this is a 14-team league, and a lot of people had 2 quarterbacks, so there's really nowhere to.
I do want to just point out that Kirk Cousins was not on the list. And I think if we would have had a preseason poll of who would be at the halfway mark of a bust, there would have been a lot of people who would have said, honestly, there would have been a lot of people who would have said, oh, Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins is consistent. Quarterback 10 to quarterback 12.
10 to 12, yeah. I hear you.
Yeah. He's going to do it again. He's going to do it again.
All right, let's ride.
Let's hear it. Did the fans get this one right?
The fans did what I thought they would do.
Uh-oh.
They picked the guy who I knew they would pick, which the media, everybody built this up so big that Russell Wilson was going to be the savior for the Broncos. And I didn't buy into the hype. So that's why did I expect him to be this bad? No. But I'm also looking at all of the things going around that I did not build up my hype with this, just not knowing what Nathaniel Hackett was going to bring. Already looking at a lot of people, put a lot of hype on the receivers. Like all they're missing was a quarterback. I personally didn't think Teddy Bridgewater was that bad of a quarterback. And, there's a reason why you have a guy like Tim Patrick sometimes shining above Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. So all of these things, I was like, I don't think it's the quarterback that's missing from this whole thing. I think the receivers are average. Now you got a below average head coach. So
I thought he was going to say now you got a below average quarterback in there.
That you do. For disaster. That's all it was. You got a guy coming into a new situation, and there's so many things that can go wrong. That's why I went ahead and went with Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, yeah, Devontae Adams isn't there, but you're Aaron Rodgers. I've seen you do things with less, but now it's just showing that there's a drop off with him. He's in the same system, same head coach. They're missing their offensive coordinator, but still they're running some of the same stuff. And some of his throws, you're looking at it, he will go ahead and be annoyed and bark at a wide receiver. And I'm wishing somebody would be like, dude, that was your ball. That wasn't a wide receiver. Dobbs is going to touch his toes to catch the ball. So I'm just like, that's why he's so much more disappointing to me than Russell.
Yeah, I mean, he was drafted around that QB 14, 13 range. And to be the QB 15, I feel like it's not as big a disappointment as being drafted to be a top 5 quarterback and finishing as.
Are we saying Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Look, this is where I go back to my point about Josh Allen. People, it's fantasy, right? Literally fantasy. I'm going to get Aaron Rodgers because I drafted Watson or I drafted Lazard in round 6. And I'm going to outsmart everybody in my draft because Aaron Rodgers makes every wide receiver around him look like Devontae Adams. And so I can get Jeff's point. Like, I think, Devontae's had a rude awakening in Oakland, and Aaron's had a rude awakening that he by himself cannot win games without talent around him. And remember, the defense was supposed to be, we got a great defense. Mm-hmm. They can't score points in the second half. Every week they score 14, 10 in the first half. And then Aaron Rodgers goes to halftime, and it's like he doesn't come back on the field. It's like he just stays in the locker room, and it's because even that game last week, the defense did actually keep them in that game. Dobbs had a great catch. Oh my God. Where was it in the second half?
He didn't have his safety blanket in that game with Alan Lazard, so I think that came into a little bit too. He lost his number one wide receivers, and his current wide receivers have been dealing with injuries. No more Randall Cobb.
Yeah. But he's supposed to be one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yeah,
and he's supposed to live. We're not talking about.
To me, this is more real football as opposed to fantasy football. Because fantasy,
but he hurts in fantasy if you went running back heavy because you thought you could get Watson or Lazard in the mid rounds.
Lazard's been okay. Lazard's been okay. He scores every time he plays, so he's been okay.
But he's not a wide receiver one that people thought he was going to be.
No, he's definitely not. But you didn't draft him to be a wide receiver one. You draft him in the 8th, 9th round. So maybe you were hoping he was going to be, but he wasn't actually ever drafted as in the 2nd round to be a wide receiver one.
That was it. You're hoping that Aaron Rodgers was going to make him into a wide receiver one. That's what I'm saying. And that didn't happen. I was hoping Aaron Rodgers would actually make Dobbs into a wide receiver too. Mm-hmm. And there's flashes there, but that's what I'm saying. A lot of stuff, it's either play calling or Aaron's rushed and he's throwing the ball and, it's not
that's another problem is the line.
Catch. Yeah.
The Packers line has been terrible.
Yeah.
Bakhtiari's played one game, I think, this year.
Yeah.
That's not been helping him. But as we said before, the fans got this one right. Russ.
The fans got this one right.
Most disappointing quarterback so far.
The fans created this whole thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
But we should have nominated the fans as the most disappointing.
There you go. Let's just run through real quick each award again, just talking about who won. We had fantasy football MVP for first half of the season, Austin Eckler. Bust so far, Jonathan Taylor. Draft day value, Tyreek Hill. Rookie of the year somehow is Kenneth Walker. Breakout, Geno Smith. And most disappointing quarterback, Russell Wilson. I feel like for the most part, they got these right. I agree with a lot of what their votes say. Outside of really the rookie, I feel like was the worst thing that they got here. But outside that, I think they did good. I liked all of the nominations here. So we'll come back end of the year. We'll do another one of these and see how the percentages change. Maybe some of these guys are here. Maybe some of these guys aren't here anymore. I can tell you Breece Hall won't be the rookie of the year come the end of the year.
Nope.
But first half of the year, he definitely was. But we're going to end it here short. Jeff's got a dinner. He's got to go attend. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Yeah, he's going to go and see her, try and talk some stuff.
Yeah, they're on bye.
Yeah. Might as well. He can't hurt his game anymore. So, but he'll probably be doing some workouts at the dinner table. He can't take any time off. But thank you guys for joining. I hope everyone who watched enjoyed, and make sure you tune in again next week. We'll be here, and drop us a follow. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Zach.